My crazy neighbor tried to make my life hell, so I made sure to make her pay. My name is Luther, and I live in this semi-rural mountain area where nature's basically just vibing 24/7. Picture this, a cozy little house up front and out back, a freaking natural hot spring. Yeah, I know. It's like living in an Airbnb listing that charges $400 a night just to breathe. Now, these hot springs aren't just for show. A lot of us pipe them into our homes or build hot tubs around them. Mine? I've got this bougie in-ground hot tub situation in the backyard, fed straight from the Earth's steaming faucet. Pure mountain luxury. But here's where things get interesting. Enter CN. That's short for crazy neighbor. And oh boy, she lives just to the left of me. She's like a Disney villain in yoga pants. Anyway, behind all the houses on our street, there's this little stream. It's not Niagara Falls or anything, but it's got a solid flow, and all of us neighbors use it. Ray, my right side neighbor, super chill guy, he built these little backyard zen pools. Couple houses down, someone else has a whole Pinterest-worthy vegetable patch. And me? I've got this sweet little fruit and pepper garden. I baby this thing. It's my pride and joy. I'm out there whispering affirmations to my strawberries like a plant therapist. So far sounds peaceful, right? Just wait. CN's about to enter the chat. So, when I bought this house, the seller basically handed me the keys and a warning label. Whatever you do, they said, don't engage with the lady next door, CN. Apparently, CN tried to sue them. Something about how part of the land was rightfully hers? I don't know. Maybe she saw a squirrel trespass and decided it was legal evidence. Anyway, the lawsuit got tossed out faster than expired cottage cheese. But that was my first glimpse into the legend of CN. Still, when I moved in, her kids came by with cookies. 3 little ones, maybe 8, 9, and 10, big smiles handing over homemade chocolate chips. It was sweetest little welcome ever, and I thought, maybe the old owners were just dramatic. Spoiler. They weren't. A week later, I throw a chill little BBQ to meet the neighbors. Grill going, lawn chairs out, hot dogs doing their thing, you know the vibe. I even invite CN and her family, thinking maybe we could reset the whole sued the previous owners thing. Huge mistake. The second she steps foot in the house, she goes full homeowners association president of a neighborhood that doesn't even have an HOA. She starts laying down the rules of the neighborhood like she's reading from a sacred scroll. No loud music after 9 p.m. Cool, fine. Keep your cars in the driveway, sure, no problem. Then she hits me with this gem. All kids are allowed to play in the stream, even the parts in your backyard. What? And then, with a perfectly straight face, she adds, oh, and everyone is welcome to use each other's hot springs. Ma'am. Everyone? There's only one hot spring on this street. Mine. So I gently say, yeah, I'm not really comfortable with that. And this woman scoffs, like I just said Santa Claus isn't real, and says, all the other neighbors are fine with it. There are no other hot springs. I repeat myself, firmer this time. I still don't feel comfortable with strangers soaking in my backyard. She just shrugs and carries on, listing more rules, like she's the queen of steam. The rest of the BBQ was fine. Food was good. Nobody got pushed into the hot tub. But yeah, I knew right then. That was going to be my first and last BBQ with CN. So after the rules of the Hot Spring Kingdom incident, I figured I'd do a vibe check with the actual neighbors. You know, just to make sure I wasn't the one being dramatic. Turns out, I wasn't even close to being dramatic enough. Every single one of them, from Mr. Bonsai Garden, 3 doors down to Carol with the overly enthusiastic wind chimes, said the same thing. Dude, stay away from CN. Apparently, her rules are about as real as her lawsuit wins, aka total fiction. So I did the responsible adult thing. I marched over to CN's place and told her, Hey, I talked to the neighbors and I'm really not okay with anyone being in my backyard without my permission. She did this thing, you know, that evil villain smirk people do in cartoons. Like she's plotting to drop a piano on my head. Yeah, that. She scoffed, gave me a sarcastic, okay, and closed the door like I just told her cats aren't cute. Later that week, I had lunch with Ray, who knows everyone's drama but minds his business. That's when Ray drops the bomb. CN? Oh, man. She's a serial suer. Like, she keeps her lawyer on speed dial the way I keep pizza coupons in my glove box. Apparently, she once sued a local pizza place, claiming they used peanut oil, and she was allergic. Thing is, the restaurant never even had peanut oil in the building. A bunch of folks think she planted it herself. But the damage was done. Small business gone. At that point, I decided, no more nice backyard neighbor energy. This woman, dead to me. Fast forward to a few days later, I come home from a grocery run with a bag of kale I was never going to eat. And what do I see? CN's 3 tiny goblins are having a pool party in my hot spring. My hot tub usually has a heavy cover that even I struggle with, so how did they open it? Rocket fuel? Sorcery? I walk up, calm but stern. Hey, you're not allowed to be in here. This is private property. You need to leave now. They look me dead in the eye and say, our mom said it's ours too. What? I tell them again, firm this time, that they need to get out. And they finally do, muttering something about unfairness, like I just canceled Christmas. But listen, I know some people are going to be like, aw, don't be mean to the kids. No. This is a scalding hot spring, not a Chuck E. cheese ball pit. If one of them slips and turns into boiled ravioli, guess who's getting sued into another dimension? Me. So I lock up my gates and drive straight to the hardware store like I'm fortifying a zombie apocalypse bunker. I come back. CN is already there, standing in my driveway with steam coming out of her ears. She's all, how dare you kick my kids out? We have rules on this street. And I go, sweetly, but with the dead eyes of someone who's done. Please leave. I have you on camera. Full bluff. I had no cameras, not even a doorbell one. She storms off, cussing in a language I think she made up on the spot. But you bet your sweet garden hose I ordered actual cameras that night. Next morning, pure bliss. Birds chirping, breeze flowing, sun shining. I'm out in the garden replanting everything I saved from my apartment balcony. Ray's wind chimes are lightly singing in the wind. Life is good, except every few minutes. I catch CN peeking over the fence like some nosy raccoon in human form, just watching me, plotting something, and I knew. This was just the beginning. 3 weeks ago, I left town for a couple days to attend my best friend's wedding. But while I'm dancing the cha-cha slide in a suit that barely fits, I start getting security alerts on my phone. At first, I ignored them thinking maybe it's just a squirrel with too much confidence. But then, motion in my backyard. I finally open one of the clips and see CN's demons spawn, treating my pepper garden like a trampoline park. My sweet, innocent shishito peppers crushed beneath crocs and chaos. I text Ray. Hey, man, can you please clear the mini goblins out of my yard? And of course, he handles it. Legend. Now, some of you might ask, why not call the police? Great question. Answer, they're kids. Cops don't usually come out because Timmy's pretending to be Aquaman in your bird bath, but I just knew CN was behind it. Then, on the drive back home, I get another alert motion in the yard. I'm on the highway, so I can't check it. But when I stop for gas, I open the feed, and I see CN in my backyard, with an entire plumbing team, installing a pipeline from my hot spring into her yard. Pause. Breathe. Let that marinate. She literally hired a crew while I was out of town to steal my hot spring like she's building her own off-brand spa resort. I slam the Red Bull I just bought, save all the footage, and call Ray. Ray, it's go time. Ray, sounding both amused and deeply done, heads over and tells them to stop, but of course they ignore him, because he's not the homeowner. So I do what any rational adult would do. I call the police. By the time the cops arrive, the plumbing crew is just finishing up. The lock to my backyard gate? Smashed, on the ground. They're strolling out like they just installed a kitchen sink, totally casual. The police stop them and ask who hired them. They say the homeowner, they say, gesturing vaguely at CN's house like it's official business. So the police waited for me to arrive. I pull up like I'm in an episode of CSI Backyard Edition and immediately tell them, I own this house. I hired no one. The workers look genuinely confused. They told us that she said she was the homeowner. I show the cops the footage her in my yard, pointing around like she's Bob the Builder. They nod, walk me into the backyard, and I look at this Frankenstein piping system they've jammed into my hot spring like it's a soda fountain. And you know what I did? I grabbed my crowbar. Did I know how plumbing works? Number? Did I care? Also number like a vengeful suburban Thor, I ripped every pipe out of the ground, muttering, "Not today, Satan," under my breath while the cops watched like they were low-key impressed. At this point, CN comes running out, screeching, "You can't do that! That's our water!" And I go, still holding the crowbar like it's a magic wand. This is my yard, my hot spring, and your free trial to Backyard Netflix is over. But wait, it gets better. She starts screaming at me from her yard like she's in a soap opera finale. "You're destroying private property! I'm going to sue you!" At this point, she's hanging her head over the fence like a twisted suburban gargoyle, waving a flimsy paper in the air. "I have a contract with the owner of the house. I pay $2 a month for this water." First off, $2? Seriously? The police, bless their confused souls, pause. One of them looks at me. I look at him. We both look at CN doing jazz hands with her contract. I ask to see it. She won't let me. Just keeps waving it like she's trying to cool off a casserole. Eventually, the police say, "Look, just don't damage the piping while this gets sorted out." Spoiler, I immediately damage the piping while this gets sorted out. As soon as they leave, I grab the old crowbar and rip out the source pipe with the fury of 1,000 hot pepper ghosts. Meanwhile, CN is still screeching, "See you in court, you'll rue the day. Listen, lady, I already rue the day I moved in next to you. This isn't new." I call my lawyer, a true queen named Rebecca, and she's like, "Don't worry. That contract's faker than a reality TV marriage." Cool. But since I know CN's about as unpredictable as a raccoon on Red Bull, I start preparing for the inevitable. And by preparing, I mean soaking in the hot tub for hours, talking loudly to myself about how amazing this water feels. Petty? Yes. Effective? Also, yes. Now here's where it goes nuclear. My garden starts dying. Fast. Shishito peppers, wilting, tomatoes, toast. Even the rosemary looks like it saw something it can't forget. One morning, I hear movement in CN's yard. I peek over and see her like some evil garden witch pouring a huge jug of chemicals into the stream. You know, the one that feeds all our gardens. Not just mine. Everyone's. I don't know what it was didn't smell like bleach, but it was working faster than weed killer on steroids. My plants? Practically crumbling into dust. I didn't even dare eat them. I'm not trying to be the first person in history to get pepper poisoning. Ray was about to go take a dip in his little stream pools when I sprinted over and yelled, "No water for you! CN went full Breaking Bad with the creek." He turned ghost white and immediately spread the word to the other neighbors. One of them even dug up her entire garden and replanted it somewhere else, just in case. As for me, I ordered water testing strips online. Because if I can prove this sabotage, we're not just talking about a lawsuit, we're talking community-wide, pitchfork-level revenge. Evidence, baby. Ray also has a sweet dog, and you best believe he was ready to go full homeward bound to protect that pooch from CN's toxic nonsense. Speaking of toxicity, it was time to test that water. We got a pH test and an oxygen level test because science, baby. I wasn't sure what dissolved oxygen had to do with vinegar, but I appreciated the thoroughness. We took water samples from before CN's yard and right after. The results? pH dropped by nearly a full point, nitrates were slightly higher, and dissolved oxygen was significantly lower after passing her yard. Translation: CN was definitely tampering with the water. At first, I thought she'd used some scary industrial herbicide. Turns out, she poured household vinegar into the communal stream. Yup, she weaponized salad dressing. According to this neighbor, CN actually bragged about dumping vinegar in the stream as justice for me not letting her kids use my private hot spring tub. This is the same tub that's in my yard, connected to my plumbing. CN showed this neighbor a copy of the infamous contract for the water piping. Except there was no signature from me, not even a forged one, just her signature and her lawyer's. I guess she forgot that contracts kinda need both parties to agree. A small detail for most people. A massive legal crater for CN. I sent all this: water test results, witness accounts, the contract, the stream sabotage video footage to a local environmental charity. They deal with lake dumping and illegal runoff, so this vinegar fiasco was right up their alley. And after a few days, I saw something beautiful. The kind of thing that makes you pause mid-coffee sip and think, ah yes, karma really is caffeinated. The police were outside CN's house. Yep, uniforms, flashing lights, the whole deal. They talked to her for a while and then they took her to the station. Now, I don't know if she was arrested and made bail or just brought in for questioning, but about 2 hours later, she was back. And surprise, surprise, she immediately stormed to the fence and started yelling obscenities at me. I didn't even react. Now, in case you're wondering how she hasn't gotten in deeper legal trouble. Well, her brother-in-law works at the police station, which is convenient. But let's be honest, even family probably has a group chat dedicated to avoiding her. I imagine it's just titled Mute Forever. As for her pipe nonsense, her lawyer still hasn't served me with anything. My own lawyer laughed, like literally laughed, and told me CN has no case. That contract she was waving around, useless. No signature from me, no agreement, just 2 pages of wishful thinking and entitlement. Now remember how I removed all the piping from my yard? I had a new plan. I called up the owner of a local copy print delivery shop, super cool guy, and explained my idea. I'd bag up every single piece of CN's trespassing plumbing and ship it back to her, 1 piece at a time. Because if CN loves unsolicited deliveries of stuff she didn't pay for, then honey, let's deliver. He just delivered the first package, 1 small corner pipe piece. I watched the whole thing from the street like it was live theater. CN's husband opened the door and shouted for her. She came up, all puffed up like a Walmart Karen ready for war. I didn't hear the full convo, but I did see her snatch the box, sign the sheet with enough anger to break a pen, and stomp back inside like a cartoon villain. Moments later, she appeared in the second-story window, just glowering at me. And here I am, lounging on my couch, working from home with a front-row view of her ongoing meltdown. I think she's trying to manifest my death via glare. Good luck with that, CN. I've got a stable internet connection, legal counsel, and more plumbing pieces to send you. I sent CN her second official pipe delivery, this time a slightly larger piece. You'd think after the first one she'd stop signing for them. But nope. Signed and scowled just like before. Only this time CN snapped. She stormed over to my house fuming, face red. I was already recording with my door cam because I've learned, with CN, always hit record first, open second. I cracked the door open, but I didn't let her in. She immediately launches into this shrieking tirade, something about me being a horrible person, and how I had to keep the pipes installed because they were her property. She starts ranting about the contract again, waving her arms around like she's reenacting a telenovela. I calmly told her, again, that the contract isn't valid. It never even had my signature. And that's when she goes full banshee. So I step back inside, shut the door, and call the police, while she's still pounding on the door like a toddler denied a happy meal. Eventually, I see the police car pull up. I step outside just in time to see CN flip from rage goblin to wounded dove. Suddenly, she's holding her back like she's 97 years old and claiming she's been victimized. Thankfully, I had receipts, camera footage showing exactly what happened. The officer reviewed the footage and then asked CN to come down to the station. But CN? Oh, she wasn't done. Not 20 minutes later, she comes storming back to her house like a cartoon villain freshly released from jail, climbs to the second-story window, and just starts staring at me. I closed the blinds thinking she'd eventually give up. Wrong. I was about to leave the room when sweet divine comedy happened. She steps backward into a runoff ditch and completely eats it, like full-body tumble, but first into the mud. She lets out this shriek that sounded like a dying goose and storms back into her house, and all I could think was, Oscar-worthy. Ray swung by just to say that CN looked really mad, which is kind of her natural state. But I appreciated the heads up. Then, last night, there was a knock at my door. I checked the peephole, half expecting CN to be out there doing interpretive dance or lighting sage to curse my hot tub. But no. It was her husband who showed up solo and tried to sell me a weak attempt at damage control from a man clearly trying to mop up the mess before the whole neighborhood realizes the bomb just went off in his living room. Fast forward to this morning, I go out to check my mail. Not 2 seconds pass before I see CN bolt out onto her porch like I'm the main attraction in her personal Truman show. She's just watching me, like a gargoyle with a grudge. I ignore her, grab the mail, and head inside. As I'm sifting through the usual stack of ads and catalogs, I spot a wedding invitation. Odd, because I don't know anyone nearby getting married. I flip it over, and there's a handwritten message on the back. Thank you so much for volunteering your backyard for the bachelorette party. We can't wait to celebrate at your beautiful home. Followed by an invitation to a wedding at some local venue. From 2 complete strangers. I did not volunteer my house for any party. My backyard is not Coachella. I don't know these people. What is happening? I'm starting to think CN is out here freelancing as an unlicensed Airbnb host. At this point, I wouldn't be shocked if she's charging people to bathe in my hot spring and calling it a healing retreat. I swear this woman could be the CEO of Delusion Inc. So I took the wedding invitation, front and back, and snapped pictures of both. I wanted to preserve the madness in case I ever need to prove in court that my life is a rejected episode of Desperate Housewives, Rural Edition. Then I made a copy and walked casually right in front of CN's house. I held up the copy, we locked eyes, and then I lit it on fire. Just stood there, letting it burn, like the world's pettiest vigilante with a paper torch of justice. That was the exact moment CN launched out of her house, shrieking like I just barbecued her diary. She's yelling angrily, passionately, like a woman who just realized her homemade wedding con was going up in literal flames. Then, over her yelling, I heard something that made me pause. I heard the groom's name, confirmed. She definitely was behind it. So I call up CN's husband, NH. He answers like a man who's emotionally 2 inches from diving into a vat of calming herbal tea and never resurfacing. I tell him I'm not hosting any damn bachelorette party and to keep his circus under control. He pauses and says, "Which one?" I give him the bride and groom's names, and this man sounds like someone just unplugged his brain and then booted it back up in safe mode. He goes quiet and then says, "That's CN's son, from when she was a teenager." Plot. Twist. Apparently, this is CN's long-lost son from a teenage pregnancy, not his biological kid. CN left the baby with the father years ago and noped out of that whole parenting thing. NH said he'd talked to CN and called the whole party plan an accident. Right. An accident she mailed with stamps and RSVP cards. So I found the number of the groom's dad, let's call him Gary, and gave him a call. And let me tell you, when I said who I was, the sigh of, finally, a sane person that came out of this man was real. I told him what CN had been doing, and he just sounded defeated. Turns out the groom had never met his bio mom until recently. She reached out as soon as she heard he was getting married, and he, being a good-hearted but naive 20-something, invited her. Gary had warned him. But apparently love blinds even the best of us. Now here's where it gets beautiful. I had a thought, a spicy, sparkly, delicious little thought. So I offered to host the bachelorette party at my house. For free. But there are 2 rules. 1 - no damage, no trash, no CN. 2 - CN is to be blocked at the wedding door. Gary was stunned. He said he'd run it by the bride and groom and get back to me. But I could hear the barely contained evil chuckle in his voice when I told him my conditions. Honestly, hosting a party I originally got tricked into just so I can boot CN off her own imaginary guest list, that's not just petty. That's art. That's justice, wrapped in party streamers and served with sparkling water in mason jars. So after a couple of days, Gary called me. He told me that G wanted his mom, CN, to be at the wedding. B thought it was going to be this wholesome mother-son reunion thing. Gary, on the other hand, was bracing for a full-scale wedding disaster, but promised to help with the party if I was still willing to host. Now let me backtrack for a second because here's where it gets spicy. CN had been obsessed with my backyard hot spring. When she found out G was getting married, she saw it as her golden ticket. She told B and G that she had a natural, healing, magical hot spring in her yard and offered to host the party there. The only issue? That magical spring was in my yard, and I sure as heck didn't volunteer my property. So when Gary called me again and asked if the offer still stood, I said yes, but under one very specific condition. CN was not to know I agreed willingly. Let her think she bullied me into it. If she thinks she won, she's less likely to do something nuclear. Gary had also gone to CN's place recently to talk about boundaries. Smart man brought his phone recording the whole thing, just in case, and while they were talking, he glanced through a cracked door into her bedroom and saw several white dresses laid out on her bed, definitely in the trying to outshine the bride category. So Gary reported all this back to B and G. That's when B asked if they could use the house with the hot spring instead. Gary said yes, I said yes, and we both agreed to keep CN blissfully unaware. Now, let's talk about Saturday. Party day. Around midday, decorators showed up at my door and they set up the most ridiculously elegant outdoor party I've ever seen. Like if Pinterest and Vogue had a baby. And that baby had a trust fund. CN kept peeking over the fence the entire time. Around 6 p.m., B and the bridesmaids started showing up. There were about 20 of them, and they were all dressed to the nines. I mostly stayed inside, but every now and then they called me out to thank me with slurred speech, sparkly eyes, and an endless supply of money. I made over $4,000 in tips just for bringing out cartons of ice cream and occasionally pointing toward the bathroom. Honestly, I should host parties professionally. CN, of course, wasn't done. Around 9, she lit a campfire in her yard. No wind meant the smoke just hovered over her own yard like a grumpy ghost. I think she was trying to smoke us out, but the only person who suffered was her. By 11, the party was winding down. B handed me a beautiful card signed by all the bridesmaids with another $2,000 inside. I almost cried, or passed out. I might have done both. Cut to the next day. Gary tells me CN showed up to the wedding in a borderline bridal gown and demanded to be let in. Security, bless them, denied her immediately. She tried pushing through and throwing a fit, but they were solid. She got nothing but a bruised ego and probably a broken heel. But the cherry on top? Later that day, CN banged on my door again. This time, she turned the knob, and the door opened. I had forgotten to lock it after getting groceries earlier. Perfect timing, right? She barged in, full banshee mode. I called the cops the second I saw her, then ran upstairs. She followed, yelling nonsense and calling me everything but my actual name. Then she slapped me. Hard. I screamed, "Get out!" She went for round 2, but I grabbed her wrist mid-swing. She shrieked like I was the one assaulting her. I dragged her down the stairs and shoved her out the door, just as the cops rolled up like some divine sitcom timing. They cuffed her, tossed her in the back of the squad car, and interviewed me. I showed them the footage. Gave them the full story. As of now, CN hasn't come back from the police station. I'm told she's facing over 3 years in jail for trespassing, assault, and a buffet of other charges. Will she actually serve all of it? Probably not. But even if she gets a week of jail and a lifetime ban from my neighborhood, I'll call it a win. To celebrate, I grilled some food and invited the neighborhood over, a mini backyard BBQ to close the chapter. I wasn't as cool or collected as I wanted to be, but laughing with my neighbors helped. Finally, no CN, no drama, just steam, stars, and the sweet, sweet silence of justice.